Welcome to video 2, assertiveness. This video is going to be discussing what exactly assertiveness is, when to use it, and how to use it. And I'll give you a step-by-step kind of blueprint that you can use in almost any situation to be assertive. So what is assertiveness? It's that balance between passive and aggressive, where you're compassionate about the concerns of others, but confident in the concerns of yourself. Being assertive means in a conversation, you're expressing your own needs, but still caring about the receiver. Simply put, being assertive is showing confidence while still caring for the people that you're speaking. And just to reiterate, it's not aggression. When you have an aggressive communication style, it's all about winning and losing, and it uses bullying and demanding tactics to get what you want without concern for the others. Assertiveness isn't that. It's caring and being confident for yourself and those around you. Having an assertive conversation style is a valuable tool to use in many situations, but some of the common examples are the following. When you want to say no. Now, it's okay to do things for other people, but you don't want to always be a people pleaser. It's a very common trait that we go above and beyond to serve other people and do things that we don't, in our core values, want to do. So, using assertive skills that we'll talk about in a little bit when you want to say no is a great way to get your point across and show that it's something that you're not interested in doing while still respecting the person that you're communicating with. When you want to ask for something, be it at the job, with friends, or in the relationship, it's important to be assertive when asking for something specific because it shows the individual that this is something you're passionate about and care about. And an assertive communication style will allow you to come across in a manner that really drives home the importance of something. Changing a relationship. Now again, this can be with a friendship, it can be with a coworker, it can be with a significant other. When you're setting boundaries with people, it's very important to be assertive because if you're passive, you're not going to be heard, and if you're aggressive, you're not going to be constructive because it's just going to turn into an argument and you're in a clash. So if you're assertive, you're going to be getting your message out there. So imagine, for example, you have a coworker and they're a new coworker, but they're calling you every night, and you like being their friend, but that's a boundary that they're crossing. So an assertiveness would be asking them to stop calling you every night. And again, that's just an example of setting a boundary, and that's important to do that assertively. It can also go in the other way. Maybe you want to change a relationship and make a friendship into a significant other. If you assertively approach a situation, it'll have confidence in yourself and will demonstrate to them how much you care. Be taken seriously. Again, you want your message to be heard, and if you can speak confidently and assertively, you'll be taken more seriously in any situation. Something to keep in mind though with all of these, and as we move forward, is keep in mind, is this safe? You might be in a situation where it might not be safe for you to speak your mind, and that's usually in a situation when the person you're communicating with uses aggression, bullying, and even violence as a reaction to difficult conversations. So keep in mind, it is important to do what is best for you, but you can only control yourself and not others. So always consider, is it safe for me to be assertive in a given situation? More times than not though, it will be. Alright, so now we're going to talk about how to be assertive. First, I'm going to start with some general traits and concepts that you're going to want to incorporate in your kind of everyday life, have in the back of your mind, and then we're going to get into specific things you can do in a conversation. The first thing you do to help build an assertive communication style is value yourself. Start building confidence in who you are as an individual and value that you are worth being heard and that your thoughts and feelings are just as valid as other people's. Big part of your valuing yourself is knowing who you are in your core. And once you know your core values, you can live by those values and use those as kind of your compass to point you in the right direction. But you have to figure out who you are and build confidence around those values and be your authentic self and value that authentic self. Once you know who you are and what is important to you and what your needs and wants are, vocalize those. Let other people be aware of what it is that you need and want in life. Once you know who you are and you start sharing what's important to you with others, it's also important to acknowledge you can't control others. Yes, it's very important to share who we are, but understand that that only goes as far as ourselves, that we can't control the thoughts and feelings and behaviors of others. They're their own person, and as much as we might try to communicate effectively and do everything in our power to be the best communicator in the world, we can only control it on our end and can't control what comes back at us. Huge part of being assertive and having effective communication is being positive. It's so hard to have a productive conversation if you always go towards the negatives. And as soon as you start going towards the negatives, it's more likely that the conversation will turn into a confrontation, people will start to incorporate aggressive communication styles, and it just becomes an argument and no progress is made towards the outcome. You must be willing to accept both positive and negative criticism and accept that feedback and don't take it personally. Don't get defensive when somebody criticizes something you do. Because again, it's not necessarily on you. Maybe it's just who they are as an individual. Your values don't mesh with them, and that's completely okay. So don't get defensive because it's just going to turn into a fighting match. Just like we can't control what other people do and say, there's going to be times that people are going to disagree with us and they're not going to be on the same page, and that's completely okay. All right, so everything that we've been talking about in this module is building to this. So all these skills, all these tips and tricks and knowledge are the foundation piece for when you have a conversation with somebody that's a difficult conversation, that you think that might easily turn into an argument. It could be something of you want to talk to your significant other about doing the dishes. You might be telling somebody that you want to break up. You might be asking for a raise at work. You might go into the store and you got the wrong order at the restaurant and you have to tell them, no, I ordered something else. It might be asking for money from a parent. So many difficult conversations happen throughout our lives, and this module is all about building the strength to have those conversations and have them be productive. And that's what we're going to learn here. That's what assertive communication will do. Make sure that when we're having disagreements, when we're having difficult conversations, it's going to be productive for ourselves and the people that we're working with. So everything that follows here isn't necessarily for the just typical conversation that you have with your coworker about, hey, how's your day going? It's more about the difficult conversations that we have throughout our lives. All right. So here's some more tools that you can use during these difficult conversations. First off, I statements. I will, I want, I need. Use I statements, make it about you and not about the other person. As soon as you're in a conversation and you start using you statements, you need to do this. I don't like it when you are this way. You need to change this. People become defensive. They feel attacked. Their walls go up and the conversation ends. It's now, as soon as you say that, the receiver is now in defense mode. They're not going to hear anything that you want to say constructive. They're just going to be thinking about, how do I protect myself from the attack that you're putting on me? Even if you don't mean it to be an attack, that's how we take it instinctually. So try to use I statements and make the conversation about what you need rather than what they are doing to hurt you. Be empathetic. Acknowledge them. Acknowledge what they go through. Put yourself in their shoes and try to see the situation from their perspective and put that into the conversation, because it allows them to feel heard and allows you to have better perspective on the whole situation. So try to be empathetic and understand where they're coming from. This will allow much better bridge when you want to introduce what you need out of the conversation. So really emphasize and understand their point of view and try to empathize with that. Escalation. Now this can be a little bit difficult. So say that you have a conversation and you're hoping to have your roommate not borrow your car all the time. And you come to them and you explain your case and you're empathetic and use I statements, and they just don't hear you. You say it and they just don't really acknowledge what you said. Have the conversation again, but increase your firmness a little bit. Don't get aggressive, still be kind and respectful, but you might have to go back and escalate how firm you are with somebody. And that can be difficult. Crossing that line of asking for something but then firmly asking is a hard line to get across. So keep that in mind, that you might have to have these conversations multiple times and get a little firmer each time, but don't get aggressive, still be empathetic. but understand that this could be a process of conversations and escalate each time. And ultimately, you might not get what you want. That is a common thing here, is that you can do everything from your end, but you have to hope that somebody else acknowledges that and is willing to behave and take away the conversation what you're hoping, but you can't control everybody. So in the end, you could escalate and have the most firm, direct, positive communication style conversation in the world and still not get what you need. So keep that in mind. And to extend on this about escalation and having multiple conversations, take some time. If you're having a conversation with somebody and it's going nowhere, ask for, you know what, let's step back. We're both getting irritated, we're both getting a little aggressive. Why don't we step back and we'll have this conversation at a different time? Because stepping back, getting some space, doing your coping skills, getting back to your center, doing some mindfulness will allow you to be in the best position so you then can tackle it next time. Don't feel like this all has to be done in one chunk. And the last kind of tip before we get into our next topic is think about how you're saying things and really make it clear to the person what it is that you're asking from them. So don't say like, could you maybe not borrow my car so often? Say, will you not borrow my car so often? Make it very clear. Don't have any, don't make it ambiguous at all of what you want from that individual. All right. So now, what I want you to remember, dear man. Dear man. This is a mnemonic device that outlines a strategy that you can use in any difficult conversation to make it the most likely that it'll be successful and productive for both you and the person you're communicating with. So let's start with D, describe. That's the first thing that you need to do, is describe the situation. Really explain what it is that you're talking about, because they might be on a completely different page. Come in and say, you know what, we need to talk about the dishes. It's just ridiculous what's going on here. How dare you act this way? Like, they might have no idea what you're talking about. So go in and really describe the situation of what's going on and what you're going to be talking about. E, express. You're going to talk about how this situation is making you feel. What it is that how it's affecting you as an individual. Because again, just like empathy, just like it's important to recognize their point of view, if you express how you're feeling, they're going to have a better understanding of what's going on with you, and they might have no idea that you feel this way. We build things up in our minds so much, and again, people can't read our minds, so we could have built this situation up, and we just have to tell them how we feel. After you explain how it affects you, we're going to do A, assert. This is us explain to them what we want to have happen using I statements. Make it very clear and concise. Make it not ambiguous at all of what you want to have happen out of here. R, reinforce. This is now when you make it about them. Tell them how by changing this situation will benefit that person. Because you want to reinforce in their mind that, you know what, it's going to help me, but it's also going to help them as well. By making this change, it's beneficial to everybody. So the dear, these are the actions. This is the script. This is the pathway that you want to follow when you have these difficult situations. Do this practice ahead of time. Know what you're going to talk about. Know what you're going to say. And be prepared. And if you follow this guide, you are more likely to have assertive conversations that don't devolve into arguments and get nowhere. This will help you progress forward. Now onto the man part of Dear Man. And the M stands for mindful. Keep your eye on the prize. So often when we're in discussions, especially difficult ones, we'll start to veer off in other topics. So we initially started talking about the dishes, but next thing you know, you're talking about how dirty the garage is, or the thing that they did for you last week. No, we're not talking about, they're talking about the dishes. So keep on track. And a lot of times they might start playing aggressive, and they might start throwing insults at you and doing these really kind of bullying tactics so they can win. In their mind, they have to win this discussion. Ignore those. Be mindful and be in the moment of what you are there to discuss. A, appear confident. There is a good chance that some of these conversations you'll go into, you will be nervous. You will feel like there is a rock in your stomach, and that is completely okay. As long as you do everything in your power to appear confident, you will feel confident. If you stand tall, if you speak with purpose, if you act confident, your brain will switch and turn into a confident person. Fake it until you make it. Go into the conversation, follow the assertive skills, follow the assertive stances, have good tone of voice, be positive, fake it until you make it, and your point will be much more likely to be heard from individuals. And N, negotiate. Be willing to negotiate with the individual. Be willing to give a little on your end. There's a good chance that this conversation might not end with this conversation. You might have to go back and rediscuss it, and that's fine. But be willing to give a little bit on your end, meet in the middle, and that way it's going to work best for everybody. So that's Dear Man in a nutshell. It's a very valuable skill. Try to think about putting yourself in some situations and what you would say in each situation. The dear part is kind of your script, and the man is kind of the extra things to keep in mind. And keep in mind, this might not work. You're doing everything in your power to be constructive and to be productive, and if the person that you're communicating with doesn't want to reciprocate, doesn't want to do the same back, that's okay. You can't control other people, but you know that you did everything in your power to try to make something happen. And if that happens, and if you keep coming back and you keep doing Dear Man, you keep doing everything in your power to try to make something change, and nothing changes, well, then you kind of have to make some decisions, and it's some hard decisions. But understand your own value. So maybe that friendship has to end. Maybe that relationship has to end. And that's a difficult thing, but it might be the best thing for you. The other thing is you just tolerate whatever the difficult situation was, you tolerate it, you live with it. Unfortunately, staying miserable is not a great option, but it's up to you to make that decision. But know in your heart that if you come in, you follow these rules, you have done everything possible on your end to solve the situation. And that should make you feel better. But if it doesn't change, you have to make those decisions. Do I end this relationship, or do I stay in it and understand that nothing's going to change? But value yourself, look at every situation and understand, do what's best for you.